Hello. We got a matter of seconds to see if this is working or not. I believe that it is. Hold on though. Hello, hello, hello. I believe it is working. Okay. It is working. And we're here for our sixth retro review. And if I'm going to be honest, potentially our biggest one to date, because this was an extremely lengthy show, almost 5 hours to be exact. But we're finally out of the world of the World Wrestling Entertainment, World Wrestling Federation. We're finally reviewing a non WWE show. Today we will be reviewing AEW Revolution 2022. So I'm going to try my best to not do as many side tangents and get us off track because, like I said, this is going to be a long review, and if I have side tangents and other things to say, I'll try to save it for the post-review portion because, like I said, this is a nearly 5-hour show. I have 7 pages worth of notes to go through. I had to watch this through 3 different sessions. It's not, that kind of comes off like a complaint. It really isn't. It's just made it easier for me. But luckily for us, AEW added a handful of pay-per-views from their history onto HBO Max. I know that it's called Max, but I've always called it HBO Max, so that's why I refer to it as that again. Now, I saw a tweet last week. So this is why, if y'all watched last week's review, I was like, I don't know what we're going to review next. But I said it was going to be a non-WWE show. So I did have a backup plan, which will most likely be reviewed next week. We'll get to it again towards the end of the video. But the tweet said that all of AEW's pay-per-views in the past would be added to Max. At some point, that might be the truth, but that is not the case right now. It was mainly previous year's Revolution cards that were added. And fortunate enough for me, I had already got a head start on this because I was going back and forth on, did I want to review All Out 2021 or did I want to review Revolution 2022? And I'm like, hell, it's Revolution week. We're going to have to make Revolution 2025 predictions videos. And I was like, F it. Let's review Revolution. But like I said, fortunate enough for me, if I wanted to review All Out, I would have been all out of luck. Did it? Because they did not add that to Max yet. But they did add Revolution 2022. We're going to go through this review, 5-hour show, and that includes the pre-show, the first retro review that we're doing that has a pre-show that we're going to go through. Now, granted, our NXT reviews had, like, dark matches, but I am not able to access those at the moment, so I was not going to review those. Anyways, so we're going back in time to not that long ago, 2022. I will say a crap ton of things have happened since then. Some will be potentially dwelled on and talked about during the course of this video. But like I said, we got a lot to go through. I keep saying that several times. Let's go ahead and get it started. The first match on the buy-in was Layla Hirsch versus Chris Statlander. We're going to Orlando, Florida at the Addition Financial Arena. This is months before Paulo Banchero ended up on the Orlando Magic, by the way. So just to time ourselves a little bit more. We have Layla Hirsch versus Chris Statlander in our opening contest. A feud that was mainly highlighted on Rampage, and that was showcased in the pre-match promos, and it said Rampage on every one of the clips. Hirsch targets the left arm of Chris, including a drop kick into the steps. Back in the ring, Hirsch hits a drop kick into the elbow. Back and forth elbow exchange between the two with a blue thunderbomb by Statlander getting a 2 count. The two then battle on the ring apron where Hirsch delivers a Hurricane Rana. Back in the ring, Hirsch lands a running knee and an armbar with Statlander getting her to break up it by grabbing the ropes. Statlander falls forward in an electric chair position. And then Hirsch rolls to the outside, and while the referee is not looking, hits Statlander with an extra turnbuckle that was under the ring that she grabbed, and then hits a impressive moonsault, very BME style moonsault to win the matchup. And then after the match, Red Velvet comes out to check on Statlander. But Layla Hirsch gets a victory. Now, I'm going to try not to do as many side tangents, but it is very funny It's not funny. It's definitely not funny. I probably should have said funny. Probably could have found a better word for that. Ironic that I believe that Layla Hirsch is no longer under contract with AEW. That's a rumor that was going on. The main thing that I will say, this is the main thing, is that her last match in AEW / Ring of Honor was against Red Velvet, and they teased doing another match and have not teased it anymore on Ring of Honor television. But a good opening match on the buy-in. As our next thing is not a match. It is a interview, and we thought we were going to get an interview from Kenny Omega, who had not been seen on AEW television since the previous pay-per-view, which was Full Gear, where he lost his World Championship, but he was taking time off to heal from a gruesome world title run. And instead of getting Kenny Omega, we do get Don Callis, who blames the fans for the injuries that Kenny suffered during this title reign, and that he thought about bringing Kenny out here, but did not want to bring him out due to the sheer violence that would be on this show, because we have a dog collar match, we have a trios tag team match, there's lots of matches that involve blood as well, so he does not like the amount of violence that is on this card, and is continuing throughout AEW. But he does say that Kenny does becoming world champion again, and it would be from getting the title from Adam Cole, who would make a great transitional champion, as Adam Cole was in the Undisputed Elite, which Kenny, I don't know, the lore of the Undisputed Elite is weird, because I believe it was just Adam Cole, the Young Bucks, and Red Dragon. I guess Kenny technically could be involved in it, but he wasn't on TV. That whole lore is very weird. There's unfinished business there that will never be finished, so I'm spending too much time talking about something that doesn't matter. We do have another match right here. This match is with QT Marshall versus Hook. This match is taking place because QT Marshall feels that Hook has not appreciated him and thanked him for training him after his hot start of his wrestling career, which started at the end of 2021. But Hook, as he does 3 years later, doesn't really care. Hook batters QT early in the corner, and then he follows it up with a T-bone suplex. This changes up when QT hits him in the throat. QT attempts to hit a diamond cutter, but it is just a setup for Red Rum to be locked in, and QT taps out, as we have one more match to go through on the buy-in. It is a trios tag team match between the House of Black versus the Almost Death Triangle, as it is the Bastard Pac, Penta Oscuro, a.k.a. Pentagon, Pentagon Jr. He's had so many names. He's Penta now, and Eric Redbeard. This is a rivalry that probably should have been better, could have been better, but it is a big, what if, because it should have been the House of Black versus the Death Triangle, and that got all screwed up with Rey Fenix getting injured early in the year, so they had to find a replacement partner for this trios bout, and that is how Eric Redbeard ends up here. Malachi and the Bastard Pac start the match off with a very fast pace. Then Buddy and Penta tag in, with soon Redbeard and King tagging in as well, who shoulder bump one another. Then everyone starts brawling on the outside. Penta is trapped in the House of Black's corner. After a while, he recovers with a Sling Blade and Canadian Destroyer. Pac and Buddy exchange crossbodies, while Black and Penta exchange super kicks. Eric and Brody exchange forearms, ending with Brody hitting a dive to the outside. Penta hits a package piledriver on Black while on the apron, but could not get the pin because he wasn't the legal man. Then Malachi spits Black Mist into Redbeard's eye, while Buddy hits a V-trigger and a Gonzo bomb by Brody, and the House of Black pick up the victory at Revolution 2022. And I did write down in my notes, 1 year later, at the same event, they would end up being Trios champions. So Revolution, bit of a good omen for the House of Black, as we are now done with the buy-in portion. Now we're going to the actual show. But I gotta set up this match first. I will say, this is a good thing about Fight Forever, and because I've been doing a lot of my reviews while I talk on over video game footage. Every match, this show, this video, all the damn matches are going to make sense because they're all matches that took place at this event. So that is the good thing here. And it's perfect timing because I could set up the opening contest of the actual pay-per-view right here, which was Chris Jericho versus Eddie Kingston. Now, this is 3 years ago. And the opinion of Chris Jericho has drastically changed like almost every year of AEW's existence. But at this time, it was not as divisive or controversial as it is now. And the term Jericho Vortex had not been created yet. Now, to be honest, Chris Jericho spent most of 2021, I would say half of 2021, feuding with MJF. And then once the MJF rivalry was done, I almost called it the Jericho Appreciation Society. It was not that yet. The Inner Circle was feuding with American Top Team, which I think a lot of people kind of forget. But then we end up in 2022, and he spends more than half of the year feuding with Eddie Kingston. So I personally think the MJF rivalry was the prequel to the Jericho Vortex and just a rivalry that never ends. And I don't like calling that rivalry like bad because there's a lot of good moments and big moments that happened in it. It was that rivalry set up the first Blood and Guts match with the Pinnacle versus the Inner Circle. We had the second Stadium Stampede match. They had a lot of good moments there. Now this Eddie Kingston and Jericho rivalry is the same way, but it went on for way too long, and I hated the ending, and I haven't ever really dwelled onto it too much, but that shark cage barbed wire ring match, it was a very complicated name for that match. I absolutely hated that match. That was, in my opinion, the end of the rivalry. I just thought that was a bad ending, and then ever since then, Jericho has been getting on my nerves. That's the best way I could put it. I appreciate Jericho. He's been in wrestling longer than I've been alive. But ever since then, a lot of his shit has pissed me off. That is the best way that I could put it. Sorry to go on this side tangent, but we have Chris Jericho and Eddie Kingston to talk about in this opening contest. As Eddie races down to the ring and immediately hits a suplex onto Jericho. Jericho has to recover on the outside. Jericho traps Kingston in the corner with punches and follows it up with a top rope Hurricane Rana. Jericho lands a suplex off of the apron, and then more suplexes are landed in the ring along with a lion salt for a 2 count. He keeps the attack going with the walls of Jericho with Eddie crawling to the ropes. Eddie recovers with a spinning back fist that gets a 2 count. Jericho's Codebreaker gets a 2 count as well, and then another Codebreaker is landed as another spinning back fist by Eddie is landed, and then he applies the stretch plum with Jericho tapping out and Eddie picking up the victory, but he does not earn the handshake of Chris Jericho, which pisses him off more as their beef continues on for many months, as I've already alluded to. But overall, a good match. Nothing to complain about here, especially because Eddie won as well. As now we have a tag team title match. The Jurassic Express versus the Young Bucks versus Red Dragon. The Jurassic Express are coming into this match as the tag team champions, while the Young Bucks and Red Dragon both won 2 separate tag team battle royals to end up having this title opportunity. And both of these teams, again, like I said, represent the Undisputed Elite, which has a very I almost said controversial, confusing history and confusing ending that, however the hell you want to look at it, never really ended. Jungle Boy and Kyle start the bout off, mainly with Kyle attempting arm bars, but the Elite members have to team up to take care of Luchasaurus. Jungle Boy is by himself, including a Bulldog and Dropkick combo by the Bucks. Red Dragon break up the pin, which leads to bickering from the Undisputed Elite side. Luchasaurus inserts himself with a moonsault to the outside in a series of choke slams in the ring. A Doomsday Device gets a 2 count. A big triple clothesline happens then. Matt breaks up Kyle's knee bar. Matt tries to bring in a tag title to use, but Rick Knox won't let it happen, but it is dropped, and Matt and Rick Knox are arguing, so Kyle gets to use the dropped tag team title belt. A BTE trigger gets broken up by Kyle in the pinfall thereafter. The Luchasaurus dives onto everyone and then pops back in the ring for the Jurassic Express to hit the Jurassic Express and retain their tag team championships. Another good match right here. As now we're moving on to the second ever Face of the Revolution ladder match. Now, the previous year's winner was Scorpio Sky, who at this time was the number one contender for the TNT title, and they did mention several times throughout the night that Scorpio Sky will be challenging the TNT champion Sammy Guevara on that week's episode of Dynamite, but he did not have a match on this show. The next year's winner of the Face of the Revolution ladder match was in this match, and spoiler alerts, it was Powerhouse Hobbs. And also that ladder match was not on the pay-per-view, it was on the go-home episode of Dynamite. So, who is in this 2022 edition of the Face of the Revolution ladder match? It is also very funny that in 2024, they did not do one, but they still had a multi-man match on the pay-per-view, so they realistically could have done a Face of the Revolution ladder match, but maybe it's better forgotten. And hell, by the time I get this video done, they might announce one for this year. They're like, we brought it back, but that doesn't matter. So, the Face of the Revolution ladder match includes Christian Cage, Powerhouse Hobbs, Ricky Starks, Wardlow, Orange Cassidy, and Keith Lee. Now, the people that qualified that did not make it were Max Caster, Anthony Bowens, Dante Martin, Preston Vance, and Ethan Page. So what happens in the actual match? Cassidy immediately rolls to the outside, but rolls back in, climbing on his ladders to grab the ring above. I don't know what's the best way to describe. It is a golden ring that looks like a swimming floaty. They probably could have picked something better to hang above the ring, but that's exactly... They were trying to grab the brass ring. That's the best way to describe it. Christian lands a reverse DDT on Hobbs off of a ladder, and then the Team Taz members go on the ladder until Orange pushes them off and follows it up with the Terry Funk airplane spin. Hobbs lands a suplex off of the ladder on Orange, and this is followed by a spear by Christian. All 6 competitors climb the ladders at once, leaving Wardlow and Hobbs to battle one another. Then Keith tosses Orange to the outside, which injures him and takes him out for the rest of the match. Wardlow and Hobbs tear apart a ladder at the top of the ramp and continue to battle on the stage, where Keith Lee joins them. And then Keith Lee and Hobbs are speared off of the stage through a table by Wardlow. And then Danhausen, who had recently debuted in the company, appears and grabs Starks. And this is a weird spot because I think Orange was supposed to do something else, but like I said, he was hurt and they didn't know what to do. And so the camera's focusing on the stuff that was happening on the stage. Then it cuts back on the ring, and you can see Danhausen just standing out there. And I would imagine the crowd could see him because I could see him. But they don't react to like, oh, it's Danhausen until he actually gets in the ring and grabs Starks. And to be fair, he didn't Starks really could have brushed it off, but he did not. This leaves Starks and Wardlow alone and on top of 2 ladders, where Wardlow powerbombs Starks and grabs the brass ring and is the 2022 Face of the Revolution. And he will face the winner of that Scorpio Sky Sammy Guevara match in 2 weeks' time for the TNT title, where he does not win the championship, but months later he does. So there is that, and that is not the end of we'll be seeing Wardlow on this show. Then we have probably a top 5 important signing in AEW history. I like doing lists. I don't like doing them impromptu because I really have to think out loud. But when I wrote this down, I'm like, in hindsight, this is an extremely important signing that happens right here. But the newest signing of AEW, this is also kind of a trend that was happening where every AEW pay-per-view, we had a big signing. At Full Gear, off the top of my head, was Jay Lethal. All Out 2021 was probably the biggest show that had this because you had Bryan Danielson, Ruby Soho, and Adam Cole. I'm going to draw a blank because Double or Nothing 2022 or 2021 and 2022. I don't really think there was that many, but who the hell signed? Swerve Strickland, who would end up, again, being a AEW World Champion and has the potential to win the title back very, very soon. But he asked the fans whose house, and they do respond with saying Swerve's house. as this is followed up with a TBS title match up next. This is Jade Cargill versus Ty Conti, and Jade is dressed as Jade from Mortal Kombat. And the main reason that I know this is because A, I've played Mortal Kombat, and B, JR said that she was dressed as a superhero, in which Excalibur says, or Mortal Kombat character. So, there's that. A kiss is shared between the two to start this bout off, which leads into an intense brawl between the two. Afterwards, Conti dives onto Mark Sterling on the outside while Jade attacks Anna Jay, who both people were accompanying both the people in the match. Then, Anna hits Jade with a chair seconds later, but she brushes it off. Jade hits a frog splash that gets a 2 count. Conti hits a pile driver that gets a 2 count, and then Jade hits Jaded, which gets a 3 count as she continues her undefeated streak at 29-0 and goes on to hold the TBS title for at least another year because she did not lose it until Double or Nothing 2023. As you know what, we're actually going to do that match right here, right now, as we have probably the biggest match on this show to discuss, and we have a lot to discuss with it, as it is a dog collar match between MJF and CM Punk. Now, I wrote a little side note. Speak about this rivalry from the heart, because a lot of these other matches that, like, I talk about the hype, like I write down the important notes, highlights that I need to go through. Or at this one, I didn't, because there's a lot. There's very much a lot of highlights and moments that came from this rivalry. A lot of people think that this is the highlight of CM Punk's AEW tenure. They think it's the best rivalry that AEW has had. There's a debate for that. That's why I said I like doing lists. I don't like doing them off the top of my head or whatnot. But like I said, so much stuff came from this, and I will be the asshole to say there's so much more that was left that was teased and will never be finished. Or maybe. Well, who knows? But we have the last time that these two will share a ring together in a dog collar match, a match that CM Punk picked. I'll also say this is around the time that AEW / Tony Khan had purchased Ring of Honor, and I did like and appreciate that a lot of this rivalry referenced several CM Punk Ring of Honor things, and CM Punk had I believe 2 dog collar matches in ROH, because I was going to reference the one with Jimmy Rave, where I also believe he had one with Raven as well. And there's another big ROH reference that comes in a matter of moments. But Cult of Personality plays just for MJF to come out. Then a Terminator-like song plays. But that is the Ring of Honor entrance music of CM Punk, Missouri, Cantera. I hope I said that right. I always just call it his ROH theme. And I will admit that a lot of things with AEW and their fan base causes bullshit interactions and arguments. And this was one of those things. It should not have been as big of a deal as it was. And it was a cool moment. And again, a lot of people consider this the highlight of CM Punk's AEW tenure. For me, it's up there because, like I said, I love ROH. So this was a cool moment. And he has the black and white basketball shorts on for this match. So let's get into the actual matchup. Max tries to get out of the ring early, but obviously struggles to do so because they are chained together. Punk tries the corner bulldog, but Max yanks him back. Later, he is able to deliver a punch while having the chain wrapped around him, and Punk bleeds afterwards. MJF grabs the mic, and he wants Punk to quit, but Punk tells him to eat shit. Punk wraps MJF's fingers with the chain and then stomps on it. Then MJF puts Punk in a sleeper hold with the chain, but makes it back up before the count of 3. Punk applies the Anaconda Vice, but Max turns it into a pinfall. Punk hits a Shining Wizard with the chain wrapped around his knee, and Max goes out of the ring, and he starts to bleed after this. The two battle on the outside and on the apron, where Punk delivers a tombstone piledriver. Punk tries a top rope elbow drop, but Max moves out of the way. A bag of thumbtacks is then brought into play where Punk is suplexed. MJF at this point calls for help, and he calls for Wardlow to appear, and he wants the Dynamite Diamond Ring. The previous matchup that these two had, Wardlow helped MJF win, but that would not be the case here because he could not find the ring, in which Punk grabs MJF and hits a GTS where MJF lands in the thumbtacks. And about that time, Wardlow finds the ring and lays it down, with Punk retrieving it and delivering a big punch to MJF as he secures the victory. And Cult of Personality plays, which was something that at the time I just brushed off because we had witnessed a great matchup. But looking at it now, why didn't his ROH theme play? But like I said, big matchup. AEW / Ring of Honor have had several dog collar matchups happen, and they're always a chaotic and special matchup to witness, and this is one of them. And this, like I said, it did not close the book on their rivalry, but there's not many pages to be written after it. But like I said, this is something that, looking back at it now, you go to appreciate. And this is a very random ass side tangent that I will say, but this is a perfect time to mention it. AEW / Jazzwares / Ringside Collectibles have released several action figures under the line of Blood and Guts. So most of them have been from an important match in AEW history that involved blood. So, for example, you had Cody Rhodes versus Dustin Rhodes. You had Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa, which we're about to get to in a minute. And it's kind of weird because they were sold individually, but it was both from the same match, so it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. And the next two that I'm about to mention, both were at Revolution. One at 2021 and one at 2022. The 2021 one was of Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley from the first ever Exploding Barbed Wire Death Match. And I will admit, for a large portion of time, I was being very head-ass, as I normally say, because I hated the way that match ended and the controversy that it created. I'm like, why would I want this 2-pack? And then I kept realizing that, I ain't gonna lie, this is a cool-ass 2-pack, and I will admit, a lot of things in life have gotten more expensive, and wrestling figures is one of those. I got it on sale for $20. And about that time that I did that, they released the CM Punk and MJF Blood and Guts 2-pack from this event and from this matchup. And I was like, that would go nice. I'm gonna do the same thing and wait till it goes on sale. And then CM Punk ain't in the company anymore, and they don't release his freaking figures. And now this 2-pack it's not getting cheaper. It's not getting cheaper and way more harder to find. So I've wanted to get that off my chest that I can't really say I fumbled it, but I did have the opportunity to catch the pass, and it didn't go anywhere near me. So there's that. As you see on your screen right now, we have Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa. And the match that followed this Punk and MJF match was a women's title match between Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa. This match up here is squeezed in between their two big battles. The one at the previous year's St. Patrick's Day Slam. I think that's what the hell the show was called. But they had a massive lights out match. One of the best women's matches in AEW's history. An important match in AEW's history. And spoiler alert, they have one more match that follows this one. This one kinda was the weird match between the two. But this time around, it is for the gold. We got a collar and elbow tie-up, and the two battle on the ground early on. Baker keeps the attack going with Hayter interfering every so often. Shout out Jamie Hayter. Barrett applies the glove with Rosa replying with a dropkick and top rope superplex. An avalanche air raid crash by Baker gets a 2 count. The two battle for a tombstone with Rosa hitting, and then the referee is distracted by Rebel on the outside. The ref is still distracted with Britt getting the title and using it for a curb stomp. Then Rosa fights out of the lockjaw to apply her own submission, but the referee is once again distracted. Rosa takes out Rebel and Hayter on the outside just to roll back in the ring and get caught with a curb stomp, and Britt retains the title. But if you really want to see Thunder Rosa be the women's champion, just give it a couple more weeks because she wins the title from Britt. Anyways, this, like I said, was a bit of a weird matchup between the two, but seeing how it finished, you could see the road that it was going on. As now, we have another massive match on this show. Bryan Danielson versus Jon Moxley. Danielson wanted the two to join forces to better some of the competitors in AEW and to teach some of the better competitors in AEW, but Moxley wasn't going to join up with anyone unless they bled with him first. But more importantly, he wanted to beat Danielson because at this point he had never beaten Danielson in his career and would never lose to Danielson again in his AEW career, but that's a story for a different day. As this is Bryan Danielson versus Jon Moxley. A technical start between the two with it spilling out of the ring. Once back of the ring, they both deliver forearms and kicks against one another. Both are fired up after some chops are delivered, and then the both of them hit attempt dives to the outside, but it leads to the two of them brawling and bleeding afterwards. Mox delivers a big lariat and claws at the back of Danielson, with Bryan landing a suplex off of the top rope for a 2 count. The label lock is then applied with Danielson turning it into with Mox clawing at the ropes, and then the bulldog choke is applied by Moxley with Danielson turning it into a pinfall. Upon standing up, Danielson delivers the Busaiku knee, getting a 2 count. Then Danielson applies a triangle choke that Mox flips into a pinfall and picks up the victory out of it. And it's a bit of a confusing ending, and the crowd didn't really think it was over when it happened, but Moxley finally defeats Danielson. Like I said, this confusing ending leads to the two of them brawling and pushing at one another, and a man comes out to save them and to save this brawl from happening, and that man is William Regal, who smacks both of them and makes the two of them join forces, as this is the start of what would become the Blackpool Combat Club. So, bit of a confusing ending, but everything that led up to it was good. And like I said, these two go on to compete against one another several more times in AEW. And looking back at it now, we got a cool-ass faction in the Blackpool Combat Club out of it, which, I'll be the asshole, they could have came up with a better name. They could have came up with a name like the Death Riders, but you can't go back in time and change stuff like that. As now, we have an insane 6-man tag team match. In trios tag team action, we have Matt Hardy, Andrade El Idolo, and Isaiah Cassidy, all 3 men representing the AHFO, Andrade Hardy Family Office. We started off as the Hardy Family Office, in which Matt Hardy would just manage and help out several wrestlers, in which Andrade wanted a part of that and aligned himself with this group. That's how the A got added into it. And they're facing Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin, and Sting. As I said, this is a trios tag team matchup. Why? So, Sammy and Andrade were feuding for the TNT title. Darby got involved as well. They had a big triple threat match between the 3 of them, with Sammy retaining, and it leads to this chaotic matchup. Brawling from all parties starts the match off, including Jose, the assistant, who Darby dives onto while a trash can is on his head. Andrade is with Darby, Matt is with Sting, and Sammy is with both members of Private Party as they spills into the crowd. The Butcher and the Blade, who was also part of the AHFO, now appear, which we get our focus on the stage area where Sammy and Cassidy are on top of the stage. And Sammy hits a Spanish fly through a table, taking them out. And then we focus on more tables, this time around in the crowd area. Several tables are now stacked up on one another, with Darby and Andrade brawling on top of them, with it being a setup for Sting to dive onto Andrade and through the tables below. This leads to Matt and Darby brawling back into the ring, where Darby hits a Scorpion Death Drop and a Coffin Drop onto Matt while a chair is placed in between them, leading to this team of Sammy, Darby, and Sting winning. So this was very chaotic to keep up with, but I got the big moments of the match wrote down, and I appreciate Sting for everything he has done, and he did a lot of crazy stuff in his AEW run, and this was one of those things. And Revolution might be the event of Sting, because the previous year's event was his first match in AEW. This year's event, he did a big dive through a bunch of tables. 2023, he was like, yeah, I ain't really messing with that. 2024, though, all-time great showing, and what would end up being his retirement match. Anytime I get a chance to put over Sting, I will. As now, the match that is on your screen is the last match that we need to discuss for this review, and it is for the AEW World Championship, the Battle of the Atoms, Hangman Adam Page versus Adam Cole, baby, who they did mention that Adam Cole was undefeated going into this match, technically, because he did lose to Orange Cassidy, but it was an unsanctioned match, so that doesn't really count on his record. But because of his undefeated record, he had been number one contender for a while, so he wants that AEW World Championship. And Adam Cole comes out in Halo-inspired gear, and I'll be the asshole. I'm not the biggest Halo guy. I've never really dwelled too much into it. I know who Master Chief is. Other than that, besides watching people play the game and playing it like once or twice, not the biggest Halo guy. So I had to get that off my chest. And so now we get to the actual contest going on. We get dueling chants for both Adams, which I bet the crowd thought they were funny in doing that. We get a big drop kick from Page to the outside. Cole throws Page in the ring steps and then targets the arm of him. Back and forth once back of the ring, just for it to go back to the outside, and Hangman hitting a powerbomb on the apron and following it up with a moonsault. However, a moonsault in the ring is reversed into a Cole super kick for a 2 count. Then we get the Deadeye by Page that gets a 2 count, and then a neckbreaker by Cole gets a 2 count. Page delivers a fall-away slam off the top rope but cannot capitalize due to Red Dragon coming up. This sets up Cole to hit a Panama Sunrise on the outside, and another one in the ring, followed by a Shining Wizard, all of which gets a very close 2 count. A second one is attempted, but Page counters it with a clothesline, and then several super kicks are then hit by Cole. Red Dragon grab a table nearby, and whatever Cole had planned, we do not know, because Page reverses him and hits a Deadeye through the table. The Dark Order come out to check on Page, but they mainly are just out there to run off Red Dragon afterwards. Page hits a buckshot lariat, with Cole putting his fingers on the bottom rope before the 3 count. Page then ties up Cole into the ropes in retribution for what Cole had done on that previous week's Dynamite and duct taped Page and hit him repeatedly. And so with Cole being tied up to the ropes, he gets hit with a couple of super kicks, with Page following it up with a buckshot lariat and Deadeye to retain his AEW World Championship and finish off this pay-per-view. I was trying to think of something clever to say, but I couldn't. Wow. Finally dwelled into the world of AEW in this retro review series. Okay. So I got a lot to say here. So this is the end of the review portion. This is just me rambling and talking about random things. Thing one, I had planned on reviewing All Out 2021 because I told y'all about the tweet that I saw that was like, oh, they're adding AEW pay-per-views onto HBO Max. And so I was like, I'm going to review All Out 2021. It's the biggest, best show that AEW has done. That's what many people think, but there's so much to talk about with that show. And last second, I'm like, it's Revolution week. I might as well talk about Revolution 2022. Now, what helped me out is, like I said, I had already watched the buy-in before they even added these pay-per-views to Max. So I kind of was thinking in the back of my mind about it, and fortunately, I benefited from that, because if I'd started watching All Out 2021, I would have been screwed because it didn't get added to Max. So there should be more AEW reviews down the line. I will tell y'all now that the next review that we do will be from the world of TNA/Impact Wrestling, but I won't tell y'all exactly what review just yet. So if you really want to hear me talk more about Revolution, I should have my 2025 Revolution predictions uploaded at some point this week. I normally do my pay-per-view predictions on Thursday. It helps out. It's post-Dynamite. Anything that's added after the predictions that are uploaded will be via the comments. So there is that. I don't want to be here rambling for too long. I believe that we're already like at the 40-minute mark. We're exactly at the 40-minute mark now. So I do appreciate y'all for watching this. There's so much to go through, and I went through all of it. So I do appreciate y'all for watching this. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one because I'm out for now. Bye-bye. Stay safe.